A.W. Tozer was a preacher who lived in the 20th century, the first half for the most part. And much of what he speaks of here is important today. He loved God with all his heart, soul, mind, and strength, and because I also love him that way, I felt it was interesting to read his work. So I thought I'd read it to you while I'm reading it myself. This book can be found for free on Internet Archive, which I contribute to because they offer books for free. And some of these actually allow you to borrow them for periods of time. But A.W. Tozer's book is here, and you can borrow it 1 hour at a time. I actually purchased this book, so I don't need to borrow it. I'm going to be reading it from a PDF file here. The Pursuit of God is only a very small book. Then shall we know, if we follow on to know the Lord, his going forth is prepared as the morning. Hosea 6:3. I've switched over to my Microsoft Word version of that PDF. I'm going to skip the introduction because it's just a letter from someone else that's really not part of my purpose in reading this book. A.W. Tozer's preface. In this hour of all but universal darkness, one cheering gleam appears. Within the fold of conservative Christianity, there are to be found increasing numbers of persons whose religious lives are marked by the growing hunger after God himself. They are eager for spiritual realities and will not be put off with words, nor will they be content with correct interpretations of truth. They are athirst for God, and they will not be satisfied till they have drunk deep at the fountain of living water. This is the only real harbinger of revival which I have been able to detect anywhere in the religious horizon. It may be the cloud the size of a man's hand, for which a few saints here and there have been looking. It can result in a resurrection of life for many souls, and a recapture of that radiant wonder which should accompany faith in Christ, that wonder which has all but fled the Church of God in our day. But this hunger must be recognized by our religious leaders. Current evangelicism has to change the future, laid the altar and divided the sacrifice into parts, but now seems satisfied to count the stones and rearrange the pieces, with never a care that there is not a sign of fire upon the lofty Carmel. But God be thanked that there are a few who care. They are those who, while they love the altar and delight in the sacrifice, are yet unable to reconcile themselves to the continued absence of fire. They desire God above all, and they are athirst to taste for themselves the piercing sweetness of the love of Christ, about whom all holy prophets did write and the psalmist did sing. There is today no lack of Bible teachers to set forth correctly the principles of the doctrines of Christ, but too many of these seem satisfied to teach the fundamentals of the faith year after year, strangely unaware that there is in their ministry no manifest presence, nor anything unusual in their personal lives. They minister constantly to believers who feel within their breasts a longing which their teaching simply does not satisfy. I trust I speak in charity, but the lack in our pulpits is real. Milton's terrible sentence applies to our day as accurately as it did to his. The hungry sheep look up and are not fed. It's a solemn thing and no small scandal in the kingdom to see God's children starving while actually seated at the Father's table. The truth of Wesley's words is established before our eyes. Orthodoxy, or right opinion, is, at best, a very slender part of religion. Though right tempers cannot subsist without right opinions, yet right opinions may subsist without right tempers. There may be a right opinion of God without either love or one right temper toward him. Satan is proof of this. Thanks to our splendid Bible Society and to other effective agencies for the dissemination of the Word, there are today many millions of people who hold right opinions, probably more than ever before in the history of the Church. Yet I wonder if there was ever a time when true spiritual worship was at a lower ebb. To great sections of the Church, the art of worship has been lost entirely, and in its place has come that strange and foreign thing called the program. This word has been borrowed from the stage and applied with sad wisdom to the type of public service which now passes for worship among us. Sound Bible exposition is an imperative must in the Church of the living God. Without it, no church can be a New Testament church in any strict meaning of the term. But exposition may be carried on in such a way as to leave the hearers devoid of any true spiritual nourishment whatever. For it is not mere words that nourish the soul, but God himself. And unless and until the hearers find God in personal experience, they are not the better for having heard the truth. The Bible is not an end in itself, but a means to bring men an intimate and satisfying knowledge of God, that they may enter into him, and they may delight in his presence, may taste and know the inner sweetness of the very God himself in the core and center of their hearts. This book is a modest attempt to aid God's hungry children so to find him. Nothing here is new except in the sense that it is a discovery which my own heart has made in spiritual realities most delightful and wonderful to me. Others before me have gone much further in these holy mysteries than I have done, but if my fire is not large enough, it is yet real, and there may be yet those who can light their candle at its flame. 1948.